I don't think it would be that big of a surprise if I were to tell you that I don't just play Warframe. I play other games too. Now, the two I've played the most over the last few years would be Path of Exile, which is a game that I've played for over 10 years, and RuneScape 3, which I've played for a few years as well. The reason I think these two games stuck with me in particular and I keep playing them is because they have a very specific mode that you can choose to play if you want to. In Path of Exile, it's called Solo Self-Found, and in RuneScape 3, it's called Ironman. These two modes do essentially the same thing because they essentially are the same thing. Solo Self-Found is Path of Exile's Ironman. Now, the premise of these Ironman modes is very simple. You have to do everything yourself. You are on your own. Now, this might seem restrictive, and it is in a way, but it's also in a way far less restrictive than playing the game normally. This is all because trading with other people is a big part in both Path of Exile and RuneScape 3. It allows you to bypass large portions of the games by just trading. And this creates an interesting scenario because what will often happen is the easiest way to get the thing you want, whether that be an item for your character or item that you need for progression or potions or any of that, is to just do the most profitable thing you are capable of doing until you can afford it. This is not necessarily a bad thing though, because it makes it so basically no matter what you get, it is of value to someone. So even if you don't want it, you can still get something out of it because it's valuable to someone else. But there are of course some downsides to it. Number one, the most profitable thing isn't necessarily the most fun or enjoyable thing, and two, it essentially shrinks the size of the game, because anything that's solo or not profitable is simply not worth doing in a lot of people's eyes. An example I'm gonna give here is actually something I've done recently on my Ironman account, creating Spirit Terrorbird pouches through summoning. Now, Spirit Terrorbird pouches are very good because they summon a companion, the Spirit Terrorbird, which is a Beast of Burden. Beasts of Burden have their own inventory that you can fill with whatever you want, and then you can withdraw it as long as the animal or whatever companion is summoned. I mostly use Beasts of Burden for bossing. I will load them up with food so that I have more food for the boss, I can stay in the boss room for longer and get more kills before I have to go and bank again to restock on food. Now, these Spirit Bird pouches require 4 things to create at a summoning altar. They require spirit shards, pouches, gold charms, and bird meat. Spirit shards and pouches are very easy to get because you can buy them in large quantities from NPCs. Gold charms are fairly easy to get as well because you get a ton of them if you're doing Slayer tasks, which leaves us with bird meat. Now, there are 2 real ways of getting bird meat. You can buy it from an NPC if you finished a specific quest, which I haven't, or you have to get bird snares, go to the jungle, lay down the bird snares, catch the birds, which gives you the meat, and also hunter experience. So that's what I ended up doing, since I haven't yet finished the quest that would allow me to buy it from the NPC. And it was quite a bit of fun. I ended up doing it for a few hours while I was rewatching Breaking Bad on Netflix. I got a ton of hunter experience and I got a bunch of bird meats, which I could then turn into the Spirit Terrorbird pouches so that I can bring more food when I'm doing boss fights. Which of course also gave me a bunch of summoning experience. If you're not an Iron Man though, the way you do this is just by getting some money and buying it. There's no reason to go into the jungle and hunt down birds via bird snares to make Spirit Terrorbird pouches. It's just not worth doing. Now, you could say that you don't have to buy it, you can just go into the jungle even if you're not an Iron Man and catch birds with bird snares. And that's true, there is nothing stopping you, even if you're not an Iron Man, from going to the jungle and catching the birds yourself. Except for the fact that you can get this done significantly faster if you don't do it. Because doing something while knowing that you could get it done infinitely faster by just doing something else takes a lot of the fun out of it. Because for you, you're knowingly wasting your own time. And I don't know about you, but I can only do that for so long before I go, what the hell am I doing? And this simply doesn't happen in Ironman or Solo Self-Found. You don't have the option to go and do the most profitable thing and buy it, which bypasses all the gameplay you otherwise would have to do. So by restricting yourself and not giving yourself the easy option, you are giving yourself more of a game to play because you have to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And it's the same with Path of Exile. If you want an item from Cyrus, one of the endgame bosses, the easiest and fastest way to get it is to simply do maps until you get some currency and then buy it from someone else. But if you're in solo self-found, you have to do maps to get Conqueror maps, then you have to do the Conqueror maps to get the Conqueror fragments, which then allow you to fight Cyrus. Plus, you're gonna have to learn how to do Cyrus, and you're gonna have to build a character strong enough to kill Cyrus. And that's the only way to do it. You have no other option. And it's like this with pretty much everything. If you want a delve item, you need to go delve. If you want an incursion item, you have to go and do incursions. If you want something from a breach lord, you have to do breaches and then do a breach lord. Now, that's not to say that it's for everyone, because it's very much not. It's not how the games were designed and not how most people play it. Most people play it the normal way, where they make some money, they trade with other people, and they get cool stuff. And it very much has its own issues. If, for example, in Path of Exile, you want a delve item, but you hate delving, you're either not gonna get the item you want, or you're gonna have to do something that you don't enjoy. Same with RuneScape. If you don't like bossing, but you want a drop from a boss, you're either not gonna get the drop you want, or you have to do something that you don't enjoy. And that's not great. I very much don't like doing the fight caves in RuneScape because it takes 1.5 hours to get to the boss, and then if you pray against the wrong damage type twice, you die and have to do it again. It's also considerably slower to get things done. The progression is very, very slow when compared to the normal way of playing the game, and it can sometimes grind to a screeching halt. And in the case of both RuneScape and Path of Exile, you're at the mercy of RNG. Even if you kill Cyrus 100 times, you may not get the item you are looking for. Whereas mapping for currency to then buy the item is a constant progression. You get a little bit of stuff every map. So Ironman and solo self-found game modes have their upsides and also downsides. But one of the best things about them, for me at least, is knowing that whatever I achieved, I did myself. I did it, I got it done. For example, the biggest video game achievement for me personally, whatever that means, that sounds kind of sad actually, is managing to build an aura stacker in solo self-found. But it's not just that, it's a really juicy aura stacker. I have a perfectly defined nebulous, I have a headhunter, I have a double corrupted 6-link shafts that actually benefits Spark, I have voices, I have double calls of the Brotherhood, I have everything you would want for an aura stacker. It's not perfect, but it's damn good. And it took months, years even, but I got it done. And I managed to do it myself, with no help whatsoever. And that feels good. So I would recommend you give it a try. It might not be for you, chances are it won't be for you, it's not for most people. But if it is for you, it would be a shame if you don't try it out. It's a bit of a different game. Playing RuneScape in Ironman and playing Path of Exile in solo self-found is not the same as playing them normally. For me, it's a far more interesting way of playing these games, and you're also going to learn a lot more about them, because you have to do things the way they're supposed to be done. You can't just rely on trade. If you're doing a quest in RuneScape and you suddenly realize that, oh no, I need this item, you can't just go and buy the item of the Grand Exchange. You have to go and get it yourself. Whatever it may be, a fish that you have to go and catch yourself, a log that you have to go and chop down, an item that you need to go and kill a monster for. I just find it to be more fun. It's interesting how restricting yourself in what you can do results in you doing many more things than you otherwise would if you weren't restricted at all.